When the biggest winter storm in nearly 6 years took aim on southern Maryland, you knew who to turn to. JB Weather was with you before the storm to give you early warning of its potential.
I've been tracking the latest developments with our mid-season winter storm, and we could be looking at bands of more moderate to heavy snow centered here on southern Maryland
during the storm, with unparalleled live local coverage.
Forecaster John Bordash here with you, reporting live from Prince Frederick in Calvert County. That is likely producing upwards of 2 to 4 inches of snow per hour. But we are looking at high snow totals across the region. We have high impacts on our roadways, and we are looking at increasing power outage numbers across the region.
And after the storm, to cover its historic aftermath.
Right now, we are sitting at right around 41,000 customers without power. Here's a look at that updated threat timeline I produced for you right around noon today. We will have travel impacts tomorrow. That black ice will be around. We are looking at a widespread black ice event this morning across the region.
Your hometown weather forecaster is there to guide you through any storm, working to keep you and your family safe. Get updates on air, online, and on social media for local coverage Southern Maryland can count on. From Southern Maryland's weather leader, this is a JB Weather Report.
Hello and good evening, everyone. I'm Forecaster John Bordash with you to give you an update on the weekend storm potential. Yes, we are talking about the potential of yet another winter storm this weekend, one that has gotten a lot of hype and a lot of attention. I already see people asking how much snow this weekend. Honest answer is I don't know, and nobody knows. But if you can hear me fine, let me know in the comments before we get too underway here, and I will make sure that we are all good to go. So I will wait for that to roll on in, and as we wait, and assuming you can hear me, this is just a look at tonight's forecast and what we're taking a look at as we head on through this evening. I see that Liz says hello to all her friends on here. Awesome. All right. Hello, everyone. I see we have a decent amount of people watching. Forecaster John Bordash with you to give you that update on the weekend storm potential. I first want to quickly touch on tonight's forecast. It's not going to be nearly as cold as it was last night. Temperatures are going to be around the same. However, those winds are not going to be as crazy as they were last night and earlier today. We're looking at southwesterly winds between 5 to 10 miles an hour, which is not going to make it feel as cold. This morning we woke up to feels like temperatures in the upper single digits, lower teens. Tonight probably talking upper teens, lower 20s. And tomorrow we're heading up into the 40s for highs. So I can actually show you that 10-day forecast for you, and we're going backwards here. Here's a look at that 10-day forecast for you. I think, again, tomorrow we get up into the mid-40s, and we're going to stay in the mid-40s through the middle part of the week. However, we're going to see that cold out move in for this weekend, and then, yes, that potential of a winter storm bringing the potential for a wintry mix as we head into late this weekend and early next week. This weekend and through yesterday, today, I've gotten hundreds of messages about the potential of seeing a 50-year snowstorm, about the potential of seeing 3 feet of snow for southern Maryland. We've seen a viral post of one of our model runs showing 30 to 40 inches of snow in southern Maryland for Sunday night into Monday. Let me say that I do not believe that is the case. I don't think we'll get anywhere near that. And actually, we're probably not going to see nearly as much snow as we did last week. It's funny how that hype works out. But if you don't have time to stick around for this entire live stream, or for the little introduction I have here for you to go over things in video form, there's a link in the description on this video, and if it's not there, just head over to jbweather.net. The first article there talks about my current thoughts on this. We are still upwards of 5 to 6 days out from this potential storm system, and honestly, this doesn't look like a southern Maryland snowmaker, but we will see how things evolve. We are still several days away from this. So let's move it on forward here. Here's going to be the setup as we head into later this week. We're going to have an area low pressure develop across southwestern Canada near the Alberta province. It's called an Alberta Clipper, this type of a system, and it's going to be heading straight southward through the plains. That's how the jet stream is currently dipped. And that will bring snow to much of the northern plains and possibly down to the southern plains as well, as we have from Thursday going into Friday, so that by Saturday it's down by the Gulf Coast and it's picking up moisture. And then the question becomes, Where does it track? Is it going out to sea? Is it coming near the coast? Is it coming up the coast? Each one of these solutions offers very different potentials for our region. And let me detail for you what those potentials look like, and then we'll get into some of the model information we have coming in to the Weather Center today. So let me bring you on over to right over here. So let's take off our current temperatures. If we were to see this storm system, and the way we're actually looking at it, what I think might be easier to start off with here actually for you, is show you here with the model data what we're looking at, which might be a little bit difficult for you to follow along with, but I'll try my best to break it on down here for you. So this is a look at our the uppermost levels of the atmosphere as we head through the the forecast period, and this can get a little bit difficult, but this is just taking a look about a mile above our heads how energy is bundling and where it's going. So the brightest colors you see on this map, that would be indicative of more energy, and when you can get it consolidating, we're typically talking about some sort of a energy or a storm system. The black lines show you the general flow. Now, as you push on forward here in our region, I will point it out here for you, and I know this gets difficult, but for us to get those pretty maps that show you the rain snow line, we have to look at this level first. We are right in there, and I don't know if you can actually see that all that well. Let me bring on a pink pen here. Yeah, we're right there, right where you see that nice circle there. So keep that in mind as we head forward here. And this is as we head into Friday. What we're going to see happen is actually we have a storm system off the East Coast. And if we come over here to one of our prettier maps, but you will be able to see, let me bring you on over here to, we want the Northwest. What we're going to see happen as we head into Thursday and into Friday, we're going to see a pretty decent coastal, or not even a coastal storm, more of an ocean storm develop out in the middle of the Atlantic, or just off the coastline. It won't be impacting us though, and you can see that it heads on up here into Nova Scotia and the Canadian Maritimes, and we can see that here on the upper levels of our the American model, sitting right here, and you can see how the energy is bundled right around the base of it. And as we head forward here, what you're going to notice is we have our jet stream, which largely dictates how storms are tracking, where cold air is allowed to come down and penetrate. We're largely looking at it to buckle up here along the western part of the U.S. That's what we call a ridge. We see it coming back down, another little ridge. Here we go. So that's generally how this jet stream is flowing, with winds working around it from west to east. As we push this on forward here, what you're going to notice happen is we're going to have this piece of energy here, and I'm going to circle it again for you. We are right over here. The storm system we're watching for this weekend would be right over here. It doesn't look very organized, but this is just as it streams out of the Canadian provinces. And as it dips south, you can see that energy that's play it forward here, you can see how that dips out, that little bit of a dip here in our jet stream. It then begins to do what we call cut off, and that means it's going to be forming a low. And you can see it becomes rather organized, rather strong, rather amplified, and it has what we call a positive tilt. What's a positive tilt? That just means it's a trough axis, which is an area of low pressure. We can get a dip in the jet stream. Let's call it a trough. Its axis is more front facing. That's what we were going to call a positive tilt there for you. So we see that it dives down here into the southern part of the U.S., continues to strengthen. And then our question is, does it come out to sea? And it would go out to sea if that weekend storm we're talking about is stronger or slower moving. It doesn't allow for the jet stream to buckle northward along the eastern U.S. That means it's going to be flatter and head out to sea. Or is it allowed to come up the coast where we are able to see that jet stream buckle up northward? And if we're able to see that happen, which is what our midday run of the American model showed, what we're going to see is that big ball of energy come right up the coastline here. So let me show you what that looks like here at the surface. Let me come back over here to a U.S. view. And we're going to translate that down here to the surface. What we're going to see happen is, let me back it up here. This is that little bundle of energy we were looking at initially. It's right up here. This is going to be our developing Alberta Clipper that again is going to track southward like this into the southern part of the U.S. This is Thursday night going into Friday morning. And as we head towards midday Friday, what we got going on is our area low pressure sitting right over here, bringing an area of snow to parts of the northern plains. Our region's looking fine, though. Maybe some rogue rain and snow showers. Nothing too crazy, though. But as you push this forward here, we're getting into Saturday midday. You see it diving southward here across parts of the lower U.S. into the southern U.S. And what we're going to see happen here as we get into Saturday evening, our area low pressure is right above the Gulf Coast, across our Gulf Coast states, and we have an area of high pressure that is now set up across our region. That area of high pressure is critically important. What it's going to do is drive down cold air into our region. That's why Saturday is looking frigid. We probably are going to be as cold as we were today on Saturday as the storm system begins to develop. And you might think then, if we're going to be so cold Saturday, why is there a question mark with what we could see if the storm does indeed come up the coast? What we see happen with our area low pressure is that as it develops and really starts to cut off and get organized, it's going to transfer some of its energy from an inland low here to the coast. With that coastal low, if it takes a track right up the coastline here, that brings it too close to comfort and allows warm air to wrap around the center and potentially infiltrate into our region. And if I zoom in here, you can really see how that plays out. Let's come in here. Let's take a look just at the East Coast. And what we note happening, we're now getting into Sunday night going into Monday. So Saturday, aside from the cold weather-wise, looks fine. As we head into Monday, though, our Sunday night going into Monday, we're going to be looking at some issues. This is getting right around Sunday evening, right after sunset. Our low pressure is over North Carolina, and if you're a Southern Maryland snow lover, that is not a position you want to see a storm. This is why over the weekend and earlier this week, all of those images of 30 to 40 inches of snow we were discounting, not because we still can't see that happen. It's very possible that that could happen. However, it's becoming increasingly unlikely, and this is going to continue to change. It's why you don't want to hone in on any one potential. And one thing I find interesting is I'll publish a snow map. For the winter storm we had earlier last week that brought, 5, 10, 15 inches of snow to the region. The day before I published a snow map, JB, it's too warm. I'll believe it when I see it, and we got that snow. But we'll trust the snow maps made it 10 days in advance. I don't get that. But with this system, we have it tracking here along the Gulf Coast, then starts to turn up the coast. And what we'll see happen is that it tracks generally like this. Again, that's not a track we want to see. What we just saw earlier last week is that our area low pressure track due south and out to sea. That is a track we want to see here in Southern Maryland. When we talk about these systems that are coming up the coast, what we see beginning to happen then, and I just need to get like a blank piece of paper, I feel like, to draw this out for you. So let me just bring it back over here for a moment. And I think I see a question. This looks like a perfect blizzard storm to me. I wouldn't say that by any stretch of the imagination. It doesn't look like that to me at all. Let me come over here. So what we're going to note happening when we get an area of low pressure here, and I can make the pen size a little bigger now. When we have an area of low pressure, right, that L represents your area low pressure. What we see happen is that we get counterclockwise flow around areas of low pressure. So on the westward side of that is going to be a colder air that brings down cold air behind it. However, out ahead of it and right around it, that's going to be a warming air, especially when you get water or a low pressure center right off of the eastern seaboard. So let me come back over here to some of our models. And actually, I think all I need to do is get rid of that and minimize that. So when we get an area low pressure sitting just south of our region across southeastern Virginia, that area low pressure is here, right? So what that's doing is bringing in warmer air off the Atlantic and right into our region, which transitions any initial snow we could see at the beginning of this on Sunday. And we probably will see a period of snow Sunday evening, likely after lunchtime, probably getting close to sunset, quickly transition over to a period of sleet, maybe a little bit of freezing rain. And then what does this model do? It takes us over to just a plain cold rain, and it puts the heaviest snows here just to the north and west. So let me show you kind of what we're talking about here, let me bring you on over here. What we're talking about for really our potentials here. What could we be talking about with this storm? If we have an area low pressure, right? That's right here. If this bad boy were to just slide easily on out to sea, it doesn't cut off. It's not a strong storm, and that weekend storm is more amplified and causes a flatter jet stream. That might bring a period of snow here to the North Carolina foothills, but that's about it. We might see some flurries Sunday night, but we wouldn't be seeing much of anything. And I would give this probably right now a 20% chance of happening. This is what a lot of our model forecasts showed this weekend and yesterday. What we saw last night happen with a lot of our model guidance, which didn't surprise me at all. I'm just looking at the upper air pattern here. There were area low pressure out here. The way that we saw our models handle this, for the most part, took it generally kind of like this. And this would be a pretty good track for Southern Maryland snow lovers. And I see more questions about how much snow we're getting. I can't tell you that 5 days in advance. When we get a track like this, that helps to set up that warm air intrusion to the south and helps to set up a period of snow that's a little bit more favorable right along this region. That would be favorable, and I'd probably give this a 35 to 40% chance of happening. What I think is the most likely right now, though, and what a lot of our model guidance has honed in on, and while it might be overcorrecting a little bit to the west, I think the general idea here is fine. Area low pressure to the south, and we see it then track right up along the coast. What that helps to do, and if I can zoom here into our local region, we get that storm track here just to our southeast, right? Coming right here, that sets up primarily a snowier situation out here west of I-95. This is a storm track that's a lot more classic of your I-95 west snows, where I-95 becomes that battleground zone right through here. And our region is seeing mainly, and I don't think you can see that all that well, mainly rain. Do I think this will be an entirely rainy system? No, I don't think so. However, I think that's the trend we're headed towards here. And yeah, that's what a lot of our model guidance showed today. Maybe it'll, adjust tomorrow. But I'm not solely forecasting off of our models. You have to look at the entire picture here. So I don't think those calls of a 50-year blizzard are going to pan out that well, especially for our region. You might be able to see some decent snows on out towards I-81 that could potentially be to that caliber. Probably not to that caliber, but you could see some areas of heavy snow out along Winchester, Hagerstown, potentially getting towards Harrisburg, north and west of I-95. But I think what we're going to see here across our region as we sit here 5 days in advance is probably a snow to mix to rain solution. How long do we stay as snow? That's a good question. I don't have an answer to that. How long do we stay as a mix? I'm not too sure. If I show you what our European model is showing us, and this is one that a lot of people like to reference because it generally does pretty good with our upper air and long-term projections. You can see what it does is our area of low pressure, our storm system getting its act together out here across the northern plains as we head into Friday morning. What you see, and you can also see right off the coastline here, that ocean storm, right? That's going to be going up into the Canadian Maritimes. Again, not affecting us. We might see some increased cloud cover Thursday. You can see that area low pressure diving down, and what's happening is this area high pressure is getting set up across our region. And what that helps to do is drive in that colder air. As we get our area low pressure down here to the Gulf, it picks up a lot of moisture. Maybe it tries to bring some winter weather down to the southeast U.S. and let's come in here to the east coast. It begins to make that turn northward. But what you see happening, if we zoom in here to the mid-Atlantic, look at that. Sure, maybe you get more of a moderate to heavy snow west of I-95, but you get that rain-snow line, mixed area, sleet freezing rain right along I-95, and even, closer in our region, you're looking at more of a cold rain. We'll be too warm for snow. We're probably looking at a high temperature as we head into our temperature Sunday night going into Monday. That could be potentially in the upper 30s. That's a little too warm for snow, though, especially at the upper levels of the atmosphere. So this isn't necessarily a pattern that screams huge snowmaker to me. That model image you all likely saw, many of you likely saw, that went viral this weekend that showed 30 to 40 inches of snow in our region. that took a path off the coast that is very rare to happen. It is very rare we get a coastal setup like this, especially in a La Nina year, that places the heaviest snows right along the coastline. That isn't something that normally happens. Typically, these coastal storms develop into nor'easters and place that heaviest area of snow to the northwest of I-95. What this storm reminds me a lot of is a winter storm we saw back in February of 2014. I remember that well because that was my first year doing that, or that was my first winter season doing this. And I was a senior in high school and I brought a couple of snow days. I believe the winter storm, or the Weather Channel named it Winter Storm Pax. But what that ended up doing, let me bring it back on. Let me bring you on over here. Let's get the sidebar off. What that brought was the area of heaviest snow was really centered right along here. That's where you saw the heaviest snow with that storm track. And then you saw a decent amount of icing, a little bit of sleet, a little bit of freezing rain kind of working its way up here, while we saw mainly rain, a little bit of front end, and then back end snow, kind of sitting right up into here. So that's what we could be talking about here. How is it we could see a bigger storm? Again, you get an area low pressure here that tracks near the coast. Sure, maybe you see that, but that chance is going down. A lot of our midday, now evening model guidance, I can show you what the latest run of the American model did. Let's kind of bring it back here. Actually, this was the latest run of the American model. It looks like I was showing you. Look at this. I mean, it tracks that area of low pressure here. If it wants to zoom in, I might need to refresh this a little bit here for us. It tracks that low pressure, not only not up along the coast, but look at that. It tracks it into central parts of PA. It brings that rainstorm line all the way to I-81. Now, I think this is a little bit too far to the west here, but that trend isn't super friendly for us out here sitting along the coast. But we're still a good 5 days in advance. So really, outside of this graphic, these questions we have, it's going to be really difficult to say, what's going to be going on. I think if you're looking for a big blizzard, you're going to be out of luck with this storm, at least here in southern Maryland. There's a reason I really try to withhold, aside from putting icons on the 7-day forecast, which if I show you here, sorry, I just got distracted by the comments. I see people like another spam. Aside from putting icons on the 7-day forecast, I've really kind of refrained from talking about this. And I think it's possible maybe we could trend towards a snowier solution that would require a southeast trend with our model guidance. And sure, that's possible. In my experience, though, and the way I've seen these storms play out year after year after year, I don't know if that'll be the final solution. And it's very possible that tomorrow you see more of a southeasterly trend and you see some of these crazy model images get posted again. But it is in my experience that in these types of situations, they don't always spell out a big time blizzard for us. And even if we do, let's think back to 2016, which was 6 years ago. And I think I saw a comment at the beginning of this. And my winter storm promo, I said the biggest snow in nearly 6 years. And someone had said it was more than 6 years ago. But 6 years ago, we saw the blizzard of 2016. Even with that storm track along the coastline, we switched over to a period of sleet and freezing rain here in southern Maryland. The same happened in 2010 and in 2009 with those blizzards as well. Coastal storms are not the best here in southern Maryland. They're good for the DC area and like Montgomery County and Frederick County 100% because they're able to just tap into colder air. But what we see locally with these types of systems, and I will show you what we typically talk about when we get those storms here right off the coastline, even with the northwesterly wind or northeasterly wind, what happens is that comes right off the bay for us. The bay right now is sitting, water temperatures in the 40s. So what that leads to is areas southeast of I-95 that are along that coastal plain, very little elevation. You get these winds here off the ocean, off the bay, and that warms us up and that transitions us from any snow to a mix and then to rain. The only way you get back into that snow potential is when the storm's north of us and we get those winds here coming out from the northwest. That helps to bring in colder air and then can transition us over to snow. But then you're hoping that that precip is still around. So if I had to put a guess on a big time blizzard that brings us over a foot of snow, chances probably around 10% right now. Not zero, and sure it could happen. We're 5 days out. I won't write anything off. But I think it's a little bit more likely that this becomes snow to mixed to rain, maybe snow at the end, than anything else. I'd probably put that around a 40% chance right now. So, I knew this would happen. And Brandy, you're asking the question that I knew would happen. Friday, if I'm not ready to talk about the Sunday, Monday potential, I'm not ready to talk about the Friday potential. Right now, and I'll probably knock on wood, doesn't seem like a big deal. It's probably just rain or snow showers. And I'd give that a 30% chance of happening as things stand right now. But I don't think we're done with snow chances as we head here through the rest of the winter. I mean, we really just got in on snow. Last week was our snowiest week in 3 years. DC recorded 9.5 inches of snow last week. We don't have any official reporting sites here in Southern Maryland that keep track of information like that. But if you live in Huntingtown, you saw near 17 inches of snow last week. If you live in Lesby, you saw close to 8 to 10 inches of snow last week as a whole. So we're already in Southern Maryland, you average between 8 inches in southern parts of St. Mary's County to around 12 to 14 in northern Calvert, northern Charles. So many of us are already at our seasonal average. Now you subtract Monday's storm, we're sitting at like 2 to 3 inches, but we have that storm there. So any additional snow here then puts us above average for our snow season, which I definitely didn't forecast. But let's just keep our expectations realistic. In a type of a La Nina pattern, which La Nina is when we have cold waters in the equatorial Pacific off of South America. It leads to an absence of a southern jet stream, and when it's there, it can team up with the northern part of the jet stream, the polar jet stream. But then it can lead to these solutions where we get coastal storms. What we really would like to see here in Southern Maryland, if you're a snow lover, if you're not a snow lover, then I'm not speaking for you. But if you are, like me, a snow lover here in Southern Maryland, you're looking for those southern sliding storms like what we saw last Monday. Again, I don't think that's likely to happen with this system. We'll see though, but I don't think it's overly likely. But yeah, I don't think we're talking crazy-ish snow totals, and I can even show you here. Let me and I'll leave the totals off of here just to show you the general look at things. Let me show you how things have kind of trended here over the last couple of runs with our American model. Let me bring it out. You can kind of see where you can get the brightest colors on this map. This would represent snow depth. Our brightest colors on the map represent higher snow totals, right? And I believe what the 18th is Monday. So this is the 17th, which you can see here. Right, so it has a little bit of snow with the earliest run across parts of North Carolina. Next run, it shifts it up into Raleigh. Next run, a little bit better for our region. Next run, it's now north of I-95, and then our latest runs place it well west of the region. I mean, you can see the highest snow totals, and I'm leaving the totals off of here, but just shown by the brightest colors, brightest pinks and whites, west of I-95. Our region, not much of anything. So just keep your expectations in check, especially for you snow lovers that are really hoping for, a decent snow in our region. I don't think this is going to be the storm to get that. I don't think so at all. I think maybe our models are overdoing it today. They probably are, but I would suspect that we're probably looking at a snow to mix to rain situation here in Southern Maryland. But again, it's very possible that I'm wrong. 5 days before the Monday storm looked like nothing, and then look, we ended up getting near a foot of snow for many of you. So it's possible things can change over the next 5 days. The upper atmospheric pattern tells me that we likely won't see crazy changes aside from that general theme of what we could be looking at. But we'll see. Jennifer, I can't talk about snow totals 5 days in advance. The earliest I will ever put out a snow map is like 48 to maybe like a 52, 60 hours in advance. I don't do much aside from that. Because if I put out a snow map today, what would happen is you would latch on to those high snow totals that could potentially be there. And then I have to update it every day. So that would be 5 changes. There's inconsistent messaging. And then people are like, what are you doing? That's what the guys on TV do. And there's a reason you're here, because the TV guy, and I don't want to knock them. I mean, they have degrees in meteorology where I don't, but I don't know how useful it is to communicate to you all. One day we're talking 20 inches of snow, the next day it's 5, the next day it's 10. Like, I don't think that's helpful for anyone. I think at this stage of the game, it's much more useful for me to tell you there's a potential for X, Y, or Z thing. And then once we get inside 2.5 or 2 days, then we can really start pinpointing totals. But at this range, you know. And Jennifer, I know you weren't being serious, but I've gotten plenty of those comments today. People just want to know how much snow for Lesby, or how much snow for, I don't know, Nanjemoyne or Lexington Park or something like that. And unfortunately, I wish this could be reduced down to just that. But let's see, Rachel, it's a waiting game. Gotta wait until at least Friday to see what happens. Yeah, and Rachel, that's a good mindset to have. You know, we're gonna watch things all week. It's only Tuesday. This wouldn't be happening until potentially next Sunday or Monday. So that gives, and so the earliest, so let's say it starts Sunday evening, the earliest I put out a forecast with snow totals is Friday. So we got several days here to watch. But yes, Billy, we will have daily. I'll probably do another one of these tomorrow evening, and then the evening after that. And no, Jennifer, I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I did, though. That would make my job a lot easier. But yeah, that's kind of generally what we're talking about here. But yeah, I mean, I think as we head into the end part of the month, we have additional snow chances that exist. You can see we have another one on the 10-day on Friday, and I think that potential is there. But we'll see. Let's see, Celestial can't count our chickens yet. Just make sure they're covered. Yep. Yeah, and I mean, and there's no point in me telling you this is for sure gonna happen. Nah, that does nothing. Because what happens when I'm wrong? Then say that I wasn't wrong. Yeah. But that's kind of what we're talking about. I can tell that people are starting to realize that this isn't likely going to be a huge blizzard like they were seeing, because my update today didn't get as many shares nearly as what last Monday's updates got, which tend to happen when we're talking about not as much snow. Yeah, so. Let's see, working utilities, just keep power on. Yeah, I think that's going to be, you know, I don't think that'll be, maybe it's an issue. We'll see. The devil's in the details about exact impacts. I think if this storm were to take a track that's closer along I-95, I think we're potentially talking about not just rain, but probably some gustier winds. But that's a detail that we'll figure out as we head further down the line. Let's see, Josh, do you think there will be a bigger storm threat than the recent one? Not likely. At least not for our region, I don't think so. Let's see, based off your showings now. Based off, it's hard to say. Who knows what will happen at the end of January or February, you know? But the general pattern, I don't know if I necessarily see a storm that was as big as last Monday's storm. It is exceptionally rare for Southern Maryland to see over 12 inches of snow from one storm. We struggled to do that with the blizzard of 2016. So I don't know how likely it is we see that again. What La Nina winters are the most known for are these nickel and dimed events where we see 3 inches of snow here, 2 here, 5. Like, we don't normally see just one big storm, which is what makes last Monday's storm so interesting and so peculiar, because that doesn't normally happen in a La Nina setup. But yeah, so that's kind of, what we're talking about. There's not much to go over this evening aside from what I did. There's not much that I'm willing to publicly talk about. It's hard to put snow amounts on this. It just is at this back at this rate. See, back in 2013, we had 3 big storms. Yeah, so 2013, 2014, that was the first winter JB weather was around, and that was my senior year of high school. I very much remember that. That was actually, it was a neutral to La Nina type winter. It wasn't an El Nino, which is what made that so interesting. But in 2013-14, we saw a lot of those smaller events. We were tracking snow like every week, and not one of them was a super big storm. The biggest storms we saw really were in March as the La Nina was letting up, and we saw 3 March winter storms, each that dropped generally like 5 to 8 inches in our region. But I remember and I vividly remember this. This is back when Alex was still like doing weather updates with me here, so 8.5 years ago. Um, but I think it was like between the end of winter break, so like the beginning of January through St. Patrick's Day, our area schools didn't have one full week of school because there was just snow like every few days, and normally it was a couple of inches. Sometimes you saw like a 3 to 6, but yeah. What do I do full time? This is what I do full time. This is my full time job. I also go to school full time, so I guess that's all. We cover both things, but yeah, this is a full time job for me. But yeah, I will graduate this in less than a year in December with my education degree. See, January 21st looks a little colder, and I see some snow/rain. Thoughts? Aside from their potential of some rain/snow on next Friday, not much aside from that. Again, if I'm being super vague about a storm threat in 5 days, I'm going to be super, super vague about the storm threat in 10 days. It doesn't look like a big storm, though. And that's kind of a reason I was never a big fan of going to a 10-day forecast, because after 7 days, my confidence with that forecast decreases a lot. And if you look, even like if you were to monitor what my temperature is showing, that 7 to 10 day range, they fluctuate a lot as those days come closer. So I only kind of did it because it was like, that's industry standard now, and that's what people expect. So we'll roll with it, but I wouldn't put a lot of stock just yet on next Friday's storm. I don't think I'll be on. I know I will not be on TV one day. Broadcasting is a dying industry. So yeah, digital is the way of the future. Online platforms. That's why I think JB Weather is so successful as a digital platform. So I like what I do right now. This helps me to cover I started school in meteorology. I did several years as a meteorology major. And by the time I got to year 2 or 3, not only was the science and math becoming really difficult, and for someone like me, I have a couple learning disabilities, it became difficult for me to do. But just like looking around at what I would be doing, believe it or not, I'll be making more as a teacher here in Pennsylvania or in Maryland than I would my first 10 to 15 years in broadcast. So, as a broadcast meteorologist, so it's kind of that. Let's see, I heard the reason for the snowfall is because of sun. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I honestly haven't been monitoring the sun too much, and that's not to sound like a smart aleck response. I just haven't. However, I know when we see those the solar flares, when we see a lot of those the fall before a winter, that can lead to a snowier winter, but that's a lot of like speculation. And I don't know why our sponsors aren't showing in the corner. I need to figure that out. What am I going to teach? My degree will be to teach social studies, I could teach all subjects, grades 4 and 5, and then social studies, grades 6 to 8. I think our areas always has to be one of the hardest areas. Oh, Frank, it is. This is a difficult area to forecast for. So I need to stock up on. You can if you want. If you want to stock up on some beer. I don't know if I would, but I also just don't largely drink. So. But yeah, that'll be 4 to 8 social studies. So that is just about everything I got for you this evening. We'll do another one of these tomorrow. I will have a written update tomorrow as well. But yeah, I think that's where we currently stand. I think we're talking that potential of rain to snow. Snow to a mix to a rain with a coastal system. And again, those aren't too friendly for our region. So, will I ever move back to Maryland? That is a very good question. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. The world's kind of my oyster. So I spent 20 years in Maryland and now 5 up here in Pennsylvania, and a part of me is ready to explore. Like I lived in Southern Maryland in Lesby. I now live outside of Harrisburg. Like I've lived in the boonies, is what I call them. And I don't know if that necessarily fits me, but who knows? Who knows? Do I think Raleigh will get some snow potentially? It's a little early to say, but it's possible. And Jane, I would definitely hold off on canceling appointments for Monday. We'll see. I think the potential for Monday is more rain than snow, but we'll see. We'll iron out the details. We'll talk again tomorrow evening at 7 for another update, and we will, continue to track things and see how things unfold here. But just stay tuned. You can always get my updates Facebook, JB Weather LLC, Twitter at JB_weather, Instagram at JB Weather, YouTube, JB Weather, and on the website, jbweather.net. And I think I have some exciting news coming for y'all here next week with the potential for some stuff that you all can buy. So that'll be fun to announce. But that's just a little sneak of what could be coming. But just stay tuned and we'll continue to track this. I think we're only getting started with the snow chances. I don't think we'll talk about anything big, but we'll see how everything turns out. In the meantime, I'm Forecaster John Bordash. Thank you all so much for joining me this evening. It's always fun to talk with you all, and it's great when I get to talk about the weather with you all. So have a nice and safe one and keep it tuned right here. In the meantime, I'm Forecaster John Bordash. Have a nice and safe one.
Check the forecast anytime online at jbweather.net.